Hello and welcome to the Home System Podcast. My name is Phil. Joining me as usual, I've got my co-host here, Rohan. How are you?
Hey, good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Joining us today, we've got Nir. How's it going?
Hey Phil, Rohan, good to be here.
As usual, this episode of the Home System Podcast is sponsored by Home System Cloud by Nabucasa. Easily access your local Home Assistant instance remotely for a small monthly fee that supports the Home Assistant and the ESP Home projects. Configuration is done via the user interface, so no fiddling with router settings, SSL certificates, or any YAML. Nir, thank you so much for being here. I know last week I had to cancel on you. Still got a bit of a husky voice from the latest sickness that my kids have given me, so thank you for being obliging and rescheduling today. Welcome to the podcast. I think we were just discussing offline before another 12 months on the waiting list. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. I guess give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself, how you got here, and what's got you keen on Home Assistant.
Yep. So probably dating myself here, but I got into computers and tech at the era of Win 3.11. I think that was the first PC I got from my dad, and then at the beginning it was mostly games and that kind of thing, and then a bit later I started getting into programming. I think that was the era of like BASIC and Turbo Pascal. I don't even know if that makes sense to people hearing this. Yeah, and I remember everything like tech and automation that kind of hit point for me early on, even when the tech was really bad and not up to par with kind of what we always imagined or you would see on TV and reading books and stuff like that. I think I have like this distinct memory of, I don't know what the program was called, but there was this thing where you would be able to open up programs on your computer by voice, but there was no speech to text like there was today. So I think it was when it was 95, or you would record yourself. I don't know if you would record yourself just like a clip.
I remember something like, you'd have to train it. I remember one of the cool things and this is really dating myself now.
Naturally speaking, yes, I was just thinking that.
And you would like have to read sentences and to train the recognition on how you spoke. And then you could like dictate documents back into the computer. And I think there was like a very rudimentary, like basic program where you could, like tell it to open Notepad or open Calculator or something. And it would do that.
So that sounds more advanced because mine didn't have speech to text. So there was no training. You would just record yourself saying the trigger and then it would just try to recognize that.
And it runs the shortcut.
Yeah, and try to find it. So it worked so bad. I remember I had a shortcut for Winamp. I would say Winamp, and then it would play back the recording it found just to confirm like what was it recognizing. Read back command prompt, and then open the command prompt.
Because it doesn't match exactly the tone you set it in or whatever, right? And
it matched another clip for some reason. Tech was not great. But it was like a fantasy of having those things work.
But you know what? For way back when, it's still pretty good, right? Like it's cool that it even existed at that time. So it's.
And as a kid, it totally hyped me, right? I mean, even though it worked like 60% or 50% accuracy.
100%.
Yeah. And then I guess just fiddling around with programming computers. But when I really got into automation and Home Assistant, okay, so I think it was around 2015. I'm not entirely sure when it actually started, but a coworker showed me like the Home Assistant dashboard and the way it looked at the time and kind of told me, look at this cool thing. And I found it amazing then, even though I had no smart devices in my house, right? So I did have a Raspberry Pi 2 lying around, and I installed it, and all I had connected to it was my PC. There were some sensors for the PC at the time. I don't remember, maybe a wake up on LAN or things like that, measuring the internet speed and presence through IP. And that was it. I had no smart devices whatsoever. And then, like little by little, like I really enjoy like the concept and everything that the vision or kind of the possibilities of what it could do. And I started looking around, and kind of getting more into that space. And I wasn't much of a tinkerer back then, so I was looking for or at least relatively easy stuff to kind of integrate into the home. And the first things were lights, just some smart light bulbs. They had, I think the integration was, I don't remember if there was a direct integration at the time or if this was done through the Xiaomi gateway, but that was my first set of smart devices. Just I had that gateway and I had a couple of lights, some buttons, maybe a motion sensor. Like there was this like Mi smart home package thing, but that was mostly it. And my house wasn't really equipped for. So before we moved, and now we kind of recently moved into a new house where I had everything planned already. You know, after I had that experience, but then here we don't. I mean, the homes didn't really have a neutral wire going through all the sockets, all the sorry, not the sockets, light switches.
Yeah.
So yeah, having light bulbs instead of like smart switches is a real bummer. There was like, oh, that is where the power would come down. Maybe sometimes that would come back, and then the lights in the bedroom would automatically turn on because just, that's how this works.
Turned on because, yeah, at 3 a.m, which is always great.
Yes, but my wife is there, and then the kids putting up the bed. It's like, and then I hated when they would switch it off. So I don't know if in the beginning I taped the switches or I physically disconnected them, and then they couldn't turn it off. You know, so it caused some issues. The acceptance factor there was kind of middling at the beginning.
Yeah, I remember when I was renting, that was the masking tape over the switches to just give that subtle reminder, I don't turn this switch off, right? Like, 'cause then you stuff up all the automations. And then you'd have people like, how do I turn this light on? I don't want to stuff up your stuff. I'm like, oh, just walk into the room, the lights will turn on.
It felt like sometimes you were making more effort to have this work as a connected way and not like a simple way, just because
100%.
And sometimes you have to walk, you have to kind of figure out the balance and remember that it needs to work and it needs to be easy and efficient, not the other way around. Although you like the tech and you like playing with it. And then, we got there, but at the beginning was a little bit rough. And then, as we progress, I think the next things I got, I'm trying to, I think I saw this back. There were some videos by Raw Automation. It's called, I don't think he does any videos anymore. He showed the, how to make like smart extension cables with using SON-off relays. I thought that was really cool. It wasn't that much of a hassle to set up. So I had a few of those made, expanded to I think connect to radiators, washing machine, that kind of thing, just to kind of try to add more things into the house. They were pretty dumb, so it was just recognizing when it's on and try to understand like when the cycle finished, with varying degrees of success, but it also was pretty efficient to kind of, know when things were left on. So that was also kind of cool.
Yeah, nice.
Although the SON-offs, I had one burn out on me, kind of scared me a few times. I don't know how.
In a wall or like outside of the wall?
No. So so they were the extension cord
cool.
ones. So that was lucky. But then I made a note to say, hey, I'm not putting SON-offs inside the wall. And in the new house, we ended up with Shelly's. But yeah, I kept those outside.
Yeah. Good call.
And then, I mean, I heard a few stories about those. So there was also, I'm trying to kind of recall things from the old house when NFC tags, I think, so tags, it's not, the tag capabilities within Home Assistant, right? When that came out, there were some projects, I think there was on the Home Assistant blog, one of them was I don't know if it was called the jukebox or the music.
Oh, the music jukebox, yes. Yeah.
What was it? The music jukebox? The ones with the cards where you would, there was, I don't know who it was. There was that like kit to create the a reader, just an external reader. So I didn't get the kit, but I just looked at the instructions for that. And I had it printed, I bought a few of these writable cards. I had those playlists for my kids, and then I didn't have a printer that could print out the cards, but just I printed stickers and put them on them, and they had like this playlist where they could just put it on the card and would play music in the house.
We have done the exact same thing, my friend, because look, I've got these things on my desk.
Yep, exactly.
right now, right?
Exactly.
So, and that's it. Like I printed, got the cards. I printed colors so that my kids could change the colors of the lights if they wanted to. I had grand plans of, like getting the movie posters, printing them on the cards as well. So if they wanted to watch, Frozen, they could just tap the Frozen card. But no, just keeping up with whatever the kids want to watch is the hard bit, right? And I don't have a printer at home, so whenever I go to my parents' house, say I need to borrow your printer, print off these new cards, and encouraging them to want to use
inkjet or a 3D printer. Which
an inkjet printer. I don't even know. No zero printer, no 3D printer or 2D printer, nothing.
No printers.
So,
what speakers did you have playing the music?
Sonos. And for the movies, it was a combination of Fire TV, Roku, either opening up Netflix or running things through Plex. Then you got to get timings right, and there's a whole bunch of scripts and keyboard presses, and the keyboard doesn't press at the right minute, and then the card doesn't work, and then it's
and then you're getting yelled at by a 2-year-old. It's
exactly
good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And hence why I have them on my desk and not in the kids' rooms at the moment, right? So
it feels too easy for them to have a card play a movie. I don't want the TV that much. It's like, here, you can have music. You can't just put a card and play Frozen. No, thank you.
That's fine.
Yeah, so we didn't have a nice speaker system. I think we started out with, I think it was a couple of Echoes. At some point moved to home minis, and I had to cast them. I'm still stuck with them actually. Now with all the voice stuff, I'm dying to have a really good solution there, but not ready.
Yeah. I think there's still, again, the voice stuff is actually really cool, but I think it's still one of those things where it's like, it's not the easiest transition to go from, because in my house at least, my family still uses like, hey, like what time is it? What's the weather today? What's the weather next week? Like whatever, right? Like that kind of stuff. And Home Assistant voice getting there, it's not 100% fully there yet, right? So it's
yeah. I mean, it is the holy grail. If I imagine like
100%
having something like this listening to me and locally and all that kind of thing. But at least, I don't know. I saw people have it work really nice performance-wise.
Yeah. For
my native language, it works terribly. For English, it's fine, but it does. I don't know. The latency still is longer than at least what I see the demos. Maybe it's my config or something like that, but it still takes a bit. But it is something that I wish that I could kind of set up properly at some point, right, and have everything locally.
So I guess, yeah, and so you've got so you're using Google Home now, just exclusively, or?
So for speakers, yes, but mostly I disabled the mics in the rooms. Just in the living room, the mic is on because my wife likes to use the timers and that kind of thing. But I'm keeping the mics off and just streaming music. I'm mostly using Music Assistant now for that. Not enough, but that's I don't want it listening everywhere most of the time. But I don't have a better alternative for speakers, unfortunately. So there was another project I had. I think this was at the COVID era. We used to, everybody was working from home, and the kids are home, and I had to kind of wanted to figure out a way where they would know that I'm in a meeting, so that they wouldn't just barge in and start talking to me.
Right.
I think there was our consumer product for this. We were using Teams, Microsoft Teams for all the communication, and they used to sell this product where it was a cube where you would connect it to the PC that would just light up, like for the call when you were in a meeting, it's red, and when you're away, it's yellow, and green when you're available. But then I didn't have one of those, and I just I tried to create one myself. So I just wrote this thing where it would hook into the API and figure out the status, and then I didn't really know how to advanced program on the ESP stuff, so I just wrote a simple web service, and it would just poll it, and it would come back with a color, and the business logic was done on the service itself, and I would place that outside the door so that the kids would know. But except for my own satisfaction that it worked, it didn't work with the kids.
Of course, they would just seen the red light and ignored it, right?
It doesn't matter.
Or just
yeah.
But what's important is that you
Or is
knew that you
even
were in a
accurate?
call, right? It's
Yes, exactly. I knew it. yeah, just to do it. But yeah, it didn't really have the desired effect that I wanted. And then I tried I think those are like for the tinkering kind of stuff that I wanted to kind of expand. There was I had an old Roomba at home, like an old model, and another video that was a route from the hookup. Thank you. Yes, I know that guy. Although he doesn't do a lot of smart home videos lately, but back in the time he had a lot more.
yeah.
And he showed this video where he took old Roomba that wasn't smart and not connected, and kind of had an ESP connected to it and plugged in, and you would be able to control it remotely. So that was pretty cool, and I imitated that. It worked, but didn't last a long time because those robots suck. They would just do that random algorithm for cleaning. Yep. It's so much better now.
They were so bad. Like I still have one. I use it in my basement. I use my Ecovacs upstairs where I actually like care about the cleaning and stuff. My basement, it's just a small, tiny area, and like there's like half finished, half unfinished, and I just close the door between them so it doesn't get in the unfinished part and muck up anything, because there's no intelligence, no nothing. It'll just run over everything, right? And it's like and I've found that thing like get caught on cords. Somehow the cords won, and I've seen this thing like get flipped over, and like it's they are so bad. And it was like not the first generation of Roombas, but like pretty close, right? Like they're like, it's not smart or anything. It came with a remote.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. It had like an IR like remote. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you could. Yeah, I remember those. You could turn it around and go left, go right.
Yeah. And like you could give it like, oh man,
I didn't even have that one.
It's not. Apparently, there is some like same like just like you said, there is like a pinout that you can follow to like push serial commands to it and stuff. Yep. And I've looked at it and I was like, this is going to be more of a pain than like I'm going to be spending more time fixing it than I'm going to be using it. And I'm like, it's not worth it. And it's, but kudos on you for actually like going through and doing that. Cause I've looked at it. I'm like, no, I'm not.
No, but the hard work was done for me, right? I mean, figuring out the protocol and then with the commands. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair. And I know it uses like, I don't know if it's like a PS2 port or something like that, but it's something very similar to.
Yeah. It looked very similar to it.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where I got that for. I'm trying to remember. You're right. I don't remember what I ended up connecting to it. So a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the kind of oh, you know what? No, I remember now. I didn't get any plug. I just directly stuck the pins into the correct holes that they needed to be. I think that's what he did in the video too. I'm not entirely sure, but I have like a recollection of maybe that was what.
Honestly, it's probably safer to do it that way with those things. It's that one is just so terrible. I don't know how it's somehow like beaten up. I don't know how. Like it's like all scratched up and stuff. I'm like, I don't. Like, sure, I have corners in my house, but like, that's the only thing I could possibly imagine that it's like hurt itself on. But yeah, those things are terrible.
Now I have a Roborock. It's an S7. Doesn't have the automatic dock, the uptake thing, but still, when I ran it for the first time, it's like a completely different one. I was shocked. It was amazing.
Same.
I would see a map of the house, right? It was like I was scanning right with the LiDAR. What the? I can see it. So, and then knowing exactly where to go, and it's so efficient. It's not keeping up with all the kids, but still decent.
Listen, man, I just needed to do its one job. I don't need you to be cool. I don't need you to be fancy. Just clean my house, don't break anything, and don't get tangled on stuff, so I don't have to deal with you. That's my requirements, right?
Have you gone to the effort of automating the Roborock? Like, have you got it so that,
I was just going to ask
leave
that,
the house, the robot comes out and cleans the house for you? Have you got it to that level?
Not because it's not difficult, right? I have the integration, but we have to prepare a lot before we can run that robot. Clean up. Do you know how many times it just got stuck on pieces of Lego and all kinds of things that my kids leave on the floor, and like lift up all the chairs and I'm not there yet. Maybe when the kids are
Exactly, yeah.
older.
I'm in the exact same boat. Like, even just today, like, we were going out, I'm like, all right, before we get in the car, we have to tidy up so that the robot can come out and clean the house, all right?
Yeah, I
Plus,
actually
I don't
do.
have the audio uptick.
Yeah, fair enough.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So how does it work without that dock, though? Like, what's the difference? I mean, obviously, I know that it will auto empty, but can you schedule it to start?
No, I mean, I would. Yeah, I can, but then I would have to kind of make sure I cleaned everything and replaced everything ahead of time, right? So sometimes I don't do that.
A little bit of effort beforehand.
Ron, sorry, you were saying something.
Oh yeah, I was saying I actually just set up that automation like 2 days ago to say like, okay, if my wife and I are out, then send me a actionable notification to say, hey, should I clean the house? Right? Because it's the same thing you said, and I don't know, did I leave this thing out? Is there crap all over the ground that I need to pick up first?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing, right? So it's like, okay, how can I deal with that? So I'm like, you know what? Just ask me every time, because my issue is I forget to hit run every time I'm out. Sometimes when I'm running out, I'll just run by and just hit the start button on top of the vacuum, which I'm like, okay, good. But for every other time that I don't do that, I figured this is a nice, it can poke me, right? So
That actionable notification's probably a good idea. Like, then you've got a way to say, yep, no, thank you very much.
We had something similar for when we leave the house, and it recognizes the alarm isn't armed. So if me and my wife recognize it out there, then it will just notify us, hey, do you want to arm the alarm?
Yep.
Because sometimes the kids are with maybe a babysitter or something, or a guest is there. So we don't want it to have it automatically done, but just notify me if you forgot. That kind
Are
of.
you using a physical alarm panel that's integrated into Home Assistant?
So actually, this is one of the automations that I love the most. This is in the new house. I don't have anything like any like third party thing. I mean, no complete alarm system. Just some stuff I built myself with the home assistant alarm integration. And so I got this Ring keypad, the version 2 of the Ring keypad. Just the keypad. I don't have the Ring alarm system or anything like that. But it works on Z-Wave, right? And somebody figure out how to integrate that, and most of the codes that are applicable to use, and now that hangs like by the door, and it's seriously like a piece of hardware. It's amazing. It has like a motion sensor, and it's got lights up really nice, and it speaks, and it's got these countdown timers, all that kind of thing. And I have that just
is that wired or like power? Does it connect to
it's not. It's Z-Wave. Oh, okay. So it has a battery. Sorry, it's battery powered, and it lasts a fair amount of time. Then
basic.
I have a low battery warning or something. I just charge it an hour or two, and it goes back in. And so that's connected, and we also have. So we had a light switch on the outside of my front door, and on the inside, I would control an overhead light that is outside the house. Didn't really have a need for that switch outside of the house. So I just used the power from there, and I printed out like a cover that would go instead of the light switch, and I put Grow 503 sensor, Grow R503. I forget the exact name. There's a fingerprint sensor that works with ESP Home, and now that's like just outside the entrance to the front door to my house, and we use that to enter. So my wife and I both have issues with taking keys outside, and sometimes even we're outside without the phone. So we just use that to once the fingerprint is scanned, it unlocks the door. We also have a smart lock. It's a Nuki smart lock. So it unlocks the house, it disarms the alarm. We also have like a bunch of rolling shutters throughout the house. So when it scans, so if it's daytime, it's going to roll up the shutters. If it's night, then it's just going to turn on the light at the entrance or something, so it's not dark when we come in. And we also have, for going out, we arm the alarm. So again, using the Ring keypad, we would arm it, and then it runs this automation where it checks that all the windows are closed, and if not, it's going to speak. We have a tablet mounted right by the door, and it just says the window in the living room is open, right? Or just tell me if something else is preventing us from leaving. And if everything is okay, then it's going to start lowering all the shutters, and it's going to start the countdown. And then we leave the house. Once the door is closed, it's going to lock it automatically. and that's it. So in terms of convenience, right, this is like one of my favorite automations. That's where we just don't have to think about it, and it works really nice. And previously we had to go, right, and before we had the Shellys as well, but you had to kind of go each window. We have like 7 of those, and just push it, wait for the shutters to come down, and then hit every room. So here the ease of life thing wins, right? This actually is something that's convenient for the household and
Totally
save us a lot of time. So I really, really like that one.
So you've got a fingerprint scanner at the front door. Is that then dependent on Home Assistant and everything being online for that to work? Like, have you thought about redundancy?
Great question. Yeah. So it does depend on Home Assistant to work, and I have a UPS, but that's not going to last forever. And yeah, the what I keep saying to myself and my wife is, we still need to take a key just in case, but we don't.
Yeah.
Do that. We never do. Let's say I'm like that, then I'm screwed. That's true.
Yeah, and I guess then it comes down to, do you just hide a key somewhere in the garden or just call a locksmith, right, if you're really desperate, right? Like,
yes, I don't hide a key, and I'd be hard-pressed to tell you even where the keys are at this point because we haven't used them in such a long time. But yeah, I guess we would have to call a locksmith or something. It hasn't happened yet.
Well, that's good.
I do the same thing where I'm like, man, I hate carrying keys. I don't know where or when this thing started. It's just, for me, at some point in my life, in my brain, I'm just like, I don't like this anymore. So I'm like, so now but the problem is smart locks are, I don't trust smart locks inherently. I think, there's some decent smart locks out there, but even it's a relative thing, right? I think smart locks as a technology are just crap. There's good ones, but they're still crap, right? And so it's that always, like, I still have one, like, in our, like, I have one, like, hidden in my car, right? Because then it's like, when I'm not home, then my car is with me, right? So it's not like somebody can just, like, slip a rock and take my key or something like that and come to the house. Granted, you can just grab a brick and break my window if you really wanted to get it, right?
Exactly.
So
what don't you trust about a smart lock? Like, is it you don't trust the technology behind it, or you just think that the mechanics behind it, like the actual, physical moving parts of them aren't up to scratch yet?
Yeah, I think that's part of it, is the mechanics, and just that reliability on the battery. And I know there's some where it's like, you can, in the front, you can take like a 9-volt battery and stick it in the terminals and like temporarily, like, yeah, I think that they've come a long way. I just don't think they are where I can fully just say, hey, you know what? I will never carry a key again. Right? Because ultimately,
it's a trust thing, right? But it is convenient, super convenient. I mean, when it works.
And that's why, like, I let it work when it works. Like, mine has a touchpad in it too, which is, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'll use a touchpad, like, type in the numbers, whatever. But then beyond that, I'm like, I don't physically carry the key with me, but it's hidden in my car, right? So I'm like,
okay, sounds like a fair compromise.
Yeah.
I guess
I think it'll work for me.
I guess for me, I'm there. The only key I carry is my car key, and like, we don't have a front door key anymore. Like, we use the Yale Assure Smart Lock, so it doesn't have a key in it. For a while, I was worried about, this is if this doesn't work, like, if the batteries run out, we're gonna have to break down a door somewhere. So then I put a second Yale deadbolt on the laundry door in the backyard. So now, if one runs out of batteries, I can at least just walk into the backyard and use the same code to get in from the back door. I think that might be where your issue is, though, Ron.
I'm sorry, I was like, that shouldn't happen, right? Because they give you a notification like when the batteries are low. It's not going to lock the door and tell you, like, I can't open it
absolutely
anymore.
But I mean,
see, this is what I inherently don't trust, because I have gotten that notification on my last, like, the battery literally had a, like,
that shouldn't work,
and that's my point.
Yeah,
right. And that's why.
Okay.
At the end of the day, if it's hardware, if it's fully hardware, I trust it. But because there's a software component to it, there's all of this stuff, then I'm like, okay. Like, and the one I have especially, it's a cloud connected one, which I don't like, right? I'd much rather it be Z-Wave or Z.
Oh, yeah.
Probably not Z.
Yeah.
We want Z-Wave for it just from a security perspective, but yeah, but it's because then I can monitor the battery and be like, hey, you know what? It's got 20%. I'm going to change it right now. Right? I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but it's like, and listen, I work in technology. I love technology. This is my thing, right? But
you're right, mate. Like, I just going to have to disagree here. Like, I live near a beach. The whole appeal for me is being able to just go to the beach, not have to carry any keys, and come home and not have to rummage through the sandy bag and find keys. Right. Once I can get rid of, once I get a car that can just be driven with a phone and an app, I won't have to carry keys anywhere. So
I was going to say, don't the new cars, like the electric cars, don't they have that?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, they do. It's and trust me, it's great. It is.
But see, then
it is.
It's like when we started going without wallets, right? When you start just being able to pay with your phone. I don't have a wallet on me anymore. I don't even have credit cards or anything.
But then, Rohan, to counteract like that, I guess for me, I feel worried not having a car key and only having my phone. Like, I recently hired a Tesla, and the only way to drive that Tesla was with my phone, right? But what if my phone ran out of batteries? Or, I've had a phone.
Tesla has a wireless charger in it, dude.
I've had phones like where the motherboard is just like fried, right? Like, what if, I'm out and bam, right? Like, that to me is.
Yeah. And
you're totally rely on one piece.
So there is so in the Teslas I can speak to, right? Because there is a key card as well. That for me, I still carry my wallet. So I carry the key card in my wallet, right? Because it's still thin enough, whatever. So I'll carry that. And then worst case, if my phone is dead, and it's actually not even my phone is dead. There's been a couple of times when, I don't know if it's on the car or in my phone, but the Bluetooth stack didn't, for whatever reason, and I've had to use that key, right? So it's bad. It's a key card, right? It's still thin, and it's like you go on vacation, right? Same thing, Phil. Like you're at the beach. Great, you just throw your key card in the thing, and it's not like it doesn't have your license plate on it. Don't write hey, it's this car, because at that point, if you lose your key card, you're just advertising, please go take my car, right? But it's got a generic Tesla or whatever, right? I'm sure the other vehicles have that too, but multiple factors. Don't just rely on one, right? It's
yeah, I guess I'm always worried about
only when you get burned.
The phone being the single point of failure is always a worry for me.
But it's also super easy to find somebody with a phone charger these days, right? So it's
or
that's what has me.
Someone mugs you and takes your phone, or
100%.
That was always a risk.
But at that point, them mugging me is probably going to take my car keys too.
That's a fair point. Fair point. Wow, that's a bit of a tangent.
I know, right? So, I mean, we talked about redundancy and stuff like this, and I guess this is a good segue near to some of the work you've done to contribute back to the Home Assistant project. You wanna talk about that?
Oh, that was a nice bridge.
Nice.
I tried to figure out what he's talking about redundancy. Sure, yeah. Yes. So for backups, I did start with the Google Drive backup add-on, which is a gold standard, I think, that most people use for backing up their configs. It's just at some point I was looking for. I don't use Google Drive, right? So I have a Google account, so I did have some storage there, but my main cloud storage provider is OneDrive, and there wasn't an add-on for that. So I just figured I'll make one and also contribute back for the folks that do want to use that storage provider. So yes, so I created one that does mostly the same thing as the Google Drive backup, just for OneDrive. There are some additions there that could be useful that are a bit outside of the normal backups. There's a file syncing ability. It's one-way syncing, but that's just for use cases like people have sometimes media or video recordings from Frigate or other maybe cameras, and VRs that they don't want part of the backup, but they still want it backed up in case something happens. So there's an ability to just sync certain directories and files to the cloud one way, and you could exclude that from the backup. So they would have the images or their media stored, and they wouldn't have to back that up and upload that at each time. So that's it. I just had one contribution in all this time and all these years, but and it was mostly for me, but still something that.
Well, I mean, it's very. I mean, it makes sense that you did something for you, but you could have just left it as a thing and not shared it and just kept it to yourself, right? So, the fact that you did that is great, right? I mean, I can speak for me. For me, my only contribution back to Home Assistant is talking to other people like yourself to ask you what you did, right? Or to talk about your contribution.
No, it feels like the spirit of the Home Assistant, right? Like the community itself, everything feels like very helpful, and it kind of everybody's trying to get it better, to make it, and it's running at such a quick pace, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it truly is, right? It's pretty cool. But yeah, so that's awesome. And just like I said, I've never actually built a integration myself or anything like that, and I don't really know what goes into that. So like, how easy or hard was it? I know we've talked to a couple of people in the past that have done that, but that I feel like it's been quite a while since we've talked about this. So and I guess 2023 is when you built it, maybe 22, something like that.
Yeah. I think it was about a year and a half ago, something like that. The first version, which didn't even have any web interface. It's not an integration, right? It's an add-on, so it's a slightly different process in terms of how you do it in that. But the nice thing about it is that it just has to run as a container, and so you could do it pretty much almost any way you like, right? Just container spins up, so you could write it in any technology you like, and there's ways where you could get just specific hooks that you want to go into the API, because you need to communicate with the local API for creating the backups, for example, or just communicate with the supervisor. That's also right thing where these add-ons, you need to have a supervisor based or HAS OS installation. People running it just as a Docker container, not supervised, that they don't have. At least I don't think they trivially have add-ons, right? Maybe there's some ways where they could just run those as containers by themselves, but I think those would probably cause issues because of like reliability on some of the APIs. But I think at least most people, I don't know, most people use it, but that is a prerequisite. Other than that, I think just for people that are developers, it's not really something very difficult to do. And it was fun. I mean, getting it to like the whole, as you were saying, packaging out so that it could be distributed.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of work, because you want to document it and make sure that it's like nice and not. If it was just for me, just throw it together and But that was also a fun project. Just to kind of be able to say that you did it.
It's a good learning experience too, right? And it's
Yep.
And what's cool is if you're just newly getting into this kind of thing, and you want to have a career in it and something that it's great practice, and people will tell you, hey, I found this issue, blah blah blah, and you get to learn that whole process of it, right? Including things like Git and all of that stuff. And the other thing is too, it's also like you can use it as part of your portfolio. Like, hey, I contributed this. Like, it's open, right? You can go and look at the Git commits and stuff like that. What happened and who contributed what to it and stuff like that. So I think it's a great way of learning and giving back, right?
Yeah, I think for early developers or like younger people, it's to have that, what you said, like, hey, you could see my portfolio, that kind of thing. At my age, it's like, this is, I mean, I'm a developer for a living for a long time. I wish I could do it like for things like Home Assistant, like have a dream job, like be passionate really about what you're doing. But realistically, it's sometimes Anyway, it was cool that
once you're at, I think I feel like I'm at that point too, right? Where I'm like, I don't want to portfolio.
Yeah.
It's just I can talk about what I did, but I'm not going to show you because I don't really care to do that right.
So what are you using for presence around the house, like in room automations? Like, are you got a whole bunch of, PIR sensors around, Wave? Are you doing ES presence? What's your go-to choice?
I looked at ES presence. I think a long time ago. I didn't go full into that one at the time, and I do want to maybe retry that. I don't remember if there was compatibility thing with just recognizing which devices. I think at the time my smartwatch wasn't supported. I don't remember what the exact reasoning was, but I did start with PIR sensors, but those are not. I mean, they're great for entering a room and that kind of thing, but actually in a room presence, those are the millimeter wave ones. So when I think the first one was the what's it called?
The FP1?
So there was the
FP1.
Yes, the FP1. I had that one, started with that one. Then I got a few more. I don't think I have the FP2. I think they're all FP1s. It was really hard to find the FP2s. Just really expensive.
Oh, so expensive.
But those work fairly well. Yes. There was, I did buy something to create my own. I just keep trying to get around to it. It works, but I didn't print the case for it. And I need to design one and then print one. And it's just like, the FP1 is just plug and play.
Yeah.
But those work really well for kind of recognizing that somebody's actually there. Sometimes it doesn't find my kids if they're alone in the room because they're too short for when I press the sensor, but mostly it's millimeter waves. And those are commutable. When we go to bed, if it finds that like there was nothing in any of the rooms for a while after midnight, then it would just make sure that everything is like brings down the shutters, it closes the lights, and that kind of thing. And that works pretty reliably. It was like actually finding that somebody's in the room. And I use a lot of that for the office, like where I work from home as well. Just air purifiers and that kind of thing, like when you're inside and it knows and it detects that the air quality level is below something, then there it goes. I think there was also another project there where there was an IKEA, you know those air quality sensors that they have? Just like they have these lights that turn green or orange or red. So again, I don't remember where I found this hack, but you could just open it up and put in like a Wemos or some kind of ESP board inside, and that connected to ESP home. I think yes, it's an ESP home connection, and then you could just trigger automations based on that. So I have one of those in the office as well, and we just turn on the
nice
air filter when it goes below some kind of threshold.
Yeah, that's great. Because then I guess
it's like a bottomless pit.
Yeah,
it really is.
And I really like that, because of those sensors, you can actually detect how long someone's in the room for, and then go, okay, they've been in the room for 20 minutes. Let's put on the air purifier, right? Like,
yes,
yeah.
Ambient music, something I didn't do yet, but I wanted to like once you sit down, it's like a work day, maybe specific type of ambient music when you're there,
that's
maybe
cool.
Seasonal.
Yes. And if you're doing a meeting, because Home Assistant can tell if you're in a meeting or not, it can read your calendar,
right?
Do the music, all that some fun stuff too.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just I figure like there's always some like Boston. I'm going to say, okay, I can reach this. This is really cool. I'm going to take a break now, and I can just focus on other things. It's like there's always the next project. There's always the next thing. It just never ends.
Never ends.
I don't know if you're like this, but I go through like currently I'm in that Home Assistant phase, right, where I'm like, again, it was Prime days, so now I naturally bought a couple of things, whatever, right? And it's like, hey, bring it in, whatever, like make sure everything is right. And then next I'll be like, okay, everything's working here. Now I'm going to focus on, I don't know, something else, something for work or something like, let's upgrade that, right? It just doesn't end, right? So it's like, it cycles, right? So it's.
Yep. I have a hard time with the dashboards now. I started to redo the mobile one. That's something I'm pretty bad at, like creating these dashboards and the UI stuff. And I mean, I redid it, but really I think this year they said that there's a lot of focus on dashboards, right? Or there should be.
They're trying to automate them.
Yeah.
Make
so
them.
Maybe that's the trigger.
I really get sucked into when people post like really good, sexy looking dashboards on like Reddit or the Facebook group. And then I'm like, oh, all right, okay. And they give you the code, like, here's the GitHub repo. You can have yours looking that good. Like, all right. Let's give this I'll try this out for 10 minutes. And then 4 hours later, you're there and it sort of looks the same, but it's not as good. And then you're like, oh, what the hell? I'll just go back to what I was using beforehand.
I've learned not to do that anymore. Yeah. Except I did do that, right? Like, again, I think I talked about this a few episodes ago where, I'm actively moving stuff from my normal instance on Docker to my Home Assistant Yellow. So I use that, and that's done now, by the way. So I use that as an opportunity to say, okay, I can rebuild my dashboard. It's not where it is, where I want it to be, but I'm done. So I'm not. That's going to be where it is, right? And that's it. And I'm not going to look at it for a very long time, hopefully.
There are long periods of time between touching the dashboards. That's what I learned with stuff.
Yeah, because otherwise
something.
you will break something there, and then now it's like, to Phil's point, you're going to spend 4 hours being like, do I have to use this card here this way? Maybe if I put a grid card here, and just like, it's the worst.
So, do you guys have like you were talking about redundancy before, but I wanted to ask, redundancy kind of out for if Home Assistant goes out?
Yes and no.
How much of the house like really relies on it? Like if it's down, if the house can still function properly?
For me, I would say mostly yes. It would be manual, right? So like, again, my light switches and stuff like that. That's another reason I opted for a switch instead of a smart bulb and things like that. Like even if for whatever reason my switch died, all my wireless is down, all my network is down, I can still go in and physically press the button and it'll turn on the lights and stuff like that. Same with my smart lock, whatever. Like, I don't think there's a whole lot that would be. It'd be manual, but I could still. Yeah. I wouldn't be dead in the water.
What about like the Zigbee devices? If you have any of those.
Like my motion,
sensors.
Obviously that kind of stuff wouldn't perform. The only I have 2 lights in my my exhaust, like my range hood, in my kitchen, and so those I just use the IKEA trad-free whatever GU10 bulbs there. So I have 2 of those in there, and the only reason I use that too is because it's my range hood's a physical button, and I was like, and I literally tried opening it up. So I'm like, maybe I could just stick a relay in here, but it is. After like a ton of bleeding, I was like, I think maybe I shouldn't do this. And so I just stuck a couple of smart bulbs in there. And then at some point that button actually broke, like the spring inside it broke. So it doesn't actually work anymore. So now I opened it up and just took out the spring, and it's permanently on, and the bulbs work great. So that is the only thing I would be deficient on, I think.
Yeah. I think similar, right? Like I've got the blinds automated, but they have their RF remotes next to them so that you can manually open and close them. The light switches are all Z-Wave dimmers, so they've still got the physical switches that you can turn them off and on. The door locks have got keypads on them, so they can work even if the Z-Wave network's down. I think the only place I would get stuck on is the Hue bulbs or the Zigbee bulbs that don't have a physical switch. So I've got like some Hue blooms that are up in the corners. Light strips that are, plugged in under beds and stuff. So if Home Assistant was down and those lights are on, the only way to turn those lights off is to actually reach around under beds and up in corners of rooms and turn the power off to those lights. Otherwise, nothing critical will go down. And that's, I think, been like a big design philosophy of mine. Like, and I guess it was also for my family, right? Like, if we've got people in the house, they should be able to use the house without Home Assistant having to be on. I remember my wife always likes to tell the story of the night that we were getting married. I was staying in a hotel. She had a bridesmaid with her, and Home Assistant decided to not work that night. For whatever reason, it was glitching out, and the lights kept turning on while they were trying to sleep.
But you still got married.
Still got married. We're still here, still a happy ending. So I'm in the hotel room, disabling Home Assistant automations, while they're trying to go around flicking off all the light switches in the house. So, yeah, I think that sort of has drilled into me that there needs to be a way for the house to function without Home Assistant being in the mix.
Yeah. I think that same, right? I haven't had that kind of an incident, but it's one of those things where inevitably something or the other always, I do something and something breaks and I'm like, all right, well, it's 4 a.m. and I have a meeting at like 7, so I gotta go. I need sleep, whatever, and I leave it there for like 2 days, right? And it's like, okay, so I still need lights or whatever. So it's that kind of thing. So I'd love to know, Nir, what prompted that? Did you get into a situation? Did you get into some kind of
I think what you guys are saying is mostly accurate for what we have now. There were some things that were very dependent on it, especially in the previous house where we didn't have any smart switches. But I think it rings true. It's mostly convenience. I did want to be able to play around with it or try to bring it down. Now that it's so in the beginning it was running on a Raspberry Pi or a dedicated Intel NUC afterwards, and I wouldn't have to touch those much. So I think there was a lot of use case where I would bring Home Assistant down. Except now it's running as a virtual machine on a Proxmox server that I have. It's running a bunch of other things in the house, and just if I manually want to like play with that server or open it up or change things, I didn't want to bring Home Assistant down. So I ended up like another node for Proxmox. So now I have like a cluster of 2 machines there, and just it would fail over to the second one if the first one goes down. Except then I had an issue with the Zigbee and Z-Wave devices because the controllers were USB connected to the main server. So I ended up adding a Raspberry Pi and having Zigbee to MQTT and Z-Wave JS just running on the Pi. And then that would stay online even if I bring down the server. And all that might be overkill. I don't even know, but it does keep the network up if one of the computers goes. And it is my worst nightmare. That's something that goes down and then have no reliable backup or something to bring it up, and then the house is like on crutches or something.
Yeah,
and it hasn't happened, but I am scared that
I was running 3 Home Assistant instances at once, in like trying to get to some sort of load balanced, Home Assistant where it detects, oh, the main instance has gone down. Let's revert some automations over to the second one, and then I'm like, no, this is crazy. Like, no, it's not like. You can only have a Z-Wave stick plugged into one machine. You can only have a Zigbee radio plugged into one machine, right?
Yeah.
Like, if that machine goes down, then you're not recovering that, right? And then you just get multiple points of failure, right? All of a sudden, you've just spread your load from like just one computer going down to all of a sudden the Raspberry Pi in the other room as frozen, and you've lost all your Zigbee network, or vice versa, right? So,
I mean, you could. It's also points of isolation, right? So if you run, like, for example, like you said, Zigbee to MQTT or something like that on a dedicated thing, then you can take down Home Assistant without having to take down that, right? And there are some advantages to it, but it's also, I don't know, it's also one of those things where it's like, okay, it goes down, and it's like, sometimes it's just a matter of going, okay, I'm going to unplug this USB here and then plug it in there and then turn my VM on and up it comes, but.
Yeah, I guess if there's no failover, just having Zigbee to MQTT run, if Home Assistant is down, is not going to be beneficial for these, because all the automations are Home Assistant based, so I don't care that it's up.
Yeah, I mean, it'll save some battery if you have battery powered Zigbee devices because they're not like searching or whatever.
Oh, I didn't consider that actually.
Yeah, I mean, if you leave it down for like a month, yeah, you're going to come up with a bunch of dead devices, but assumably you're not going to do that, so it's not that bad, right?
I said a bottomless pit, right? You just keep trying to expand it, and then sometimes doing more harm, maybe.
Well, and I've actually gone down this path, right, where I'm like, okay, how can I have redundant MQTT? How can I have redundant everything? And then based on that, it's like, how far is too far, right?
I guess just for fun projects, right? Where you say you want to play with the technology, you do it. Sometimes you pay the price, but.
Well, I do it to learn stuff, and then once I'm like, this is too hard to manage, I'm like, I learned it, I got the benefit of learning it, then I'm gonna revert it back, right? And it's all right. Anything else you want to cover? Any last thoughts? Like even around like some of, I know you mentioned you have a ton of Zigbee devices and stuff like that. Like your favorite automations too. I want to know those. I know you mentioned.
I mentioned my favorite one. Everything regarding the alarm, arming, and the security system, and that kind of thing. I have some lighting for the backyard. So when we have this kind of this roof outside of we have 2 sliding windows from the living room and the kitchen to the backyard, and then we have like this on top. So there's some LED lighting on top there. And I have these window sensors on those sliding doors, sliding windows. Sorry. I tried to come up with like a clever automation for it. I'm not sure it's as good as I as I imagined it. So when the shutters are up in the evening, it would turn on the LEDs, and then if the windows are closed, they're dimmed to like 20%. If the windows are open, then I figured, okay, so we might be outside, and then they're like up to full brightness. Nice. But then in the summer, like now, it's hot, so the air conditioner is out in the house. And then if we're sitting outside, I was like, my wife's like, oh, you have to close the window, right? So somebody closes the window all the way, and people are sitting outside, and it dims the lights. So I need to kind of work out some kinks there.
There's always the edge cases, and this is where it like all the time is, right? Like, oh, okay, there's that edge case, that edge case, that edge case. Like,
yes,
you can solve it by throwing way more technology at it that you don't need, right? Like it's like put a camera outside.
Yeah, just some pressure sensors to work out if people are outside, or some motion sensors.
Yeah, I was going to say computer vision and like count the amount of people outside. There's 1,000 answers, but it's just going to cost you a lot of money, right?
I mean, I could try. I have a Reolink camera setup that looks at the backyard, so it does have like human detection there, and I also have Frigate running. I mean, it could be like in the backlog, right? But
yeah, exactly.
Again, bottomless pit, right? It's you're like, okay, let me run Frigate. Oh, okay, now I need a Google Tensor or whatever, or what are they? Like the TPU.
Oh, I can't get a hold of one of those. Yeah, I'm running CPU based, the Frigate side.
It is impossible. The ones I've seen here are like I've found a couple on like Amazon and stuff like that, and it's some third party seller that just bought a bunch when it was available, right? And it's like $250. I'm like, yeah, I'm not paying that much for that.
Wow,
forget that.
Well, if that's the case in Canada, then there's no way for me.
Yeah, it's so bad. Like I just straight up can't find any. I had a couple of friends that ended up finding some, but you know, anytime I look, it's out. I'm sure if I cared enough, I honestly have no use for it right now. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll do it when I do it, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's my like the resolution I'm recording or something, but I have 6 cameras around the house, and it's using CPU power only with Frigate, and it's fine. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean, you don't even need like anything top of the line either, right? Like I have a Jetson Nano that you can run it. I'm not doing that yet on this guy, but you can totally do something like that on something like that, right? And now with all the AI stuff happening, these things are kind of like not outdated, but like they're not powerful enough to run like a large language model or stuff. But I'm not doing that at my house right now, so you know, this is fine, right? So I can if I wanted to do something like that, I can. That's actually why I got this, is to do things like run Frigate and do all of that, because I was having such a hard time finding it. But you know, Google TPU isn't the only answer, right? There's a ton of stuff out there that you can use.
Yep. I guess so long as the CPU works, that's the easiest for me now. But I wish 100%. That for LLMs.
Well, I was going to say, like for this kind of stuff, it's actually not that, right? Like a few cameras you can run on CPUs, and some old like computers and old devices and stuff like that you buy, they even have like Intel iGPUs on it and stuff like that, right? So you can do a pass through of that and run it against that, and like there's always options.
You know what? I might be doing that for Frigate. Maybe that's why I might be doing that for Frigate with the iGPU and the large language models you mentioned. That is what I imagine. Eventually, like we have that voice, right? The Home Assistant voice working as a large language model. I could just tell it anything I want in terms of the automations, and also reminders, and remind me when I, at the store or time. Everything just speak to that assistant. That's the holy grail for me.
100%. And it sounds like, we've seen Ollama integrations come in officially and stuff like that, right? So to me, that says, there's, I don't know if they're actively working on something around that, but it's at least, a consideration at this point, right? So I think. Yeah,
I think the technology is gearing towards that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's just a matter of time until the prices of those kind of things come down. Because even if you look at like the LLM version of the Jetson Nano, which is the Orin something or the other, right? It's still like almost $700, right? I'm like, I'm not paying that just for the luxury of me being like, what's the weather today? Right? Like,
Absolutely.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
yeah, for the primitive uses that me and my family use the Amazon Echo for, it's like, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to mention the power, right? It's on top of everything else. So
Yes. Still not strong enough to run efficiently. The models are amazing, but I don't have the hardware either to have like try those really big ones.
yeah. I mean,
You can see people posting online. You see those? Like they have like arrays of NVIDIA graphics cards like at home.
yeah.
Like these like 4 or 5 cards that are showing you all the VRAM, and it's like
Yeah. All to say, hey, your light's on. Right. At least for me, that would be my. That would
hopefully
be my
not, but
like it's. I definitely eventually want to get there. It just I need the technology to not be more mature, just be cheaper, be more accessible. Right. Is what it is.
yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on today, sharing your story with us. Yeah, as we always say, we wouldn't have a
It was a
podcast
blast.
without people like you sharing your story. So thank you.
Thank you guys.
No, thank you.
It was great.